In a quaint town nestled between rolling hills where everyone knew each other's names and secrets felt like treasures locked away, Sarah Bennett lived what many would call a fairy tale. She had a charming husband, Daniel, an adoring 6-year-old son, Jamie, and a home filled with laughter. Sarah was a talented graphic designer, often working from home, which allowed her to be present for Jamie's milestones and school events. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic life, Sarah felt an unsettling void. The excitement of new love had dulled into a comfortable routine. Daniel, a dedicated but busy accountant, often buried himself in work, leaving Sarah to navigate the mundane aspects of daily life alone. She loved him, but the spark they once had flickered like a candle in a drafty room. One rainy afternoon, while waiting for Jamie's school bus, Sarah found herself lost in thought. A sleek black car pulled up, and a stranger stepped out, shaking off the rain. He was tall, with dark hair and a friendly smile. "Hey there, I'm Mark," he introduced himself, extending his hand. Sarah hesitated but shook his hand, sensing an instant connection. Mark was a new art teacher at the local high school, full of passion and enthusiasm. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, laughter punctuating the air as they exchanged stories about their lives, passions, and aspirations. When the school bus finally arrived, Sarah felt a pang of regret at having to say goodbye. As days turned into weeks, Mark became a regular fixture in Sarah's life. Their chats during school drop-offs and pickups turned into coffee dates, and soon they were sharing secrets and dreams, filling the gaps left by their respective lives. Sarah was enthralled by Mark's zest for life and the way he made her feel alive again. It was during one of these coffee dates that Mark suggested they collaborate on an art project. "I need a graphic designer for a community mural," he said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "It'll be a great way for us to work together and showcase our talents." Sarah felt a rush of adrenaline. This project could reignite her creative spirit, and the thought of spending more time with Mark was undeniably enticing. She agreed, and they began meeting regularly to brainstorm ideas, creating a whirlwind of creativity and companionship that drew them closer. As they painted together, Sarah found herself laughing freely, forgetting the mundane responsibilities of her life. Mark was everything Daniel used to be: fun, spontaneous, and passionate. The lines between friendship and something deeper began to blur, igniting a dangerous thrill within Sarah. One late night, while working on the mural, the atmosphere changed. Their laughter faded into silence as they stood shoulder to shoulder, paint-streaked hands brushing against each other. Mark turned to Sarah, his expression serious yet vulnerable. "I've felt this connection between us since day one," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Sarah's heart raced. She knew crossing this line could shatter her perfect world, but the temptation was overwhelming. In that moment, the chaos of her emotions drowned out the voice of reason. They kissed and the world outside faded away. It was exhilarating, intoxicating, and utterly forbidden. The next few weeks spiraled into a whirlwind of passion and guilt. Sarah tried to compartmentalize her feelings, but with every stolen moment spent with Mark, her guilt grew heavier. She tried to convince herself it was just an affair, a fleeting escape from her mundane life. Yet, deep down, she felt an undeniable bond forming between them. Back at home, Daniel remained oblivious, consumed by his work and trusting nature. He adored Sarah and Jamie, always striving to provide for them. But as Sarah began to slip away emotionally, she noticed the distance growing between them. Their conversations became superficial, and the warmth in their home started to fade. One evening, after a passionate rendezvous with Mark, Sarah returned home to find Daniel waiting up for her. He looked concerned, his brow furrowed. "Sarah, is everything okay? You've seemed distant lately." Panic flooded her veins. She forced a smile, desperate to mask her turmoil. "I'm fine, just a lot on my plate with work and the mural," she lied, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. Daniel nodded but didn't look convinced. As the days passed, he made an effort to reconnect with her, planning romantic dinners and surprise outings. Sarah felt torn, caught between the warmth of her family and the thrilling escapades with Mark. Each time Daniel reached out, she felt the walls of her deception closing in. As the mural project neared completion, Sarah's relationship with Mark deepened. One night, after finishing the final touches, they celebrated with wine under the stars. In that moment, surrounded by art and laughter, Sarah felt liberated. But that liberation was short-lived. The next day, Jamie's school had an open house. Sarah was excited to see the mural unveiled, but as she arrived, her heart sank. There stood Daniel, his eyes scanning the crowd, his face lighting up when he spotted her. But then he looked past her, and his expression changed to confusion and then to fury. Mark stood beside a group of parents, and as their eyes met, Sarah felt the weight of 1,000 secrets crashing down. Daniel approached her, his voice cold. "Sarah, we need to talk. Now." They stepped aside, the air thick with tension. "Who is he?" Daniel demanded, his voice low and steady. Sarah's heart raced as she realized the truth couldn't be hidden anymore. "He's just a friend," she stammered, but the lie felt hollow. "Just a friend. You've been spending too much time with him," Daniel's voice cracked. "What's going on, Sarah? I can feel you slipping away." In that moment, everything came crashing down. Sarah felt the weight of her choices, the pain etched on Daniel's face, piercing her heart. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Daniel's face hardened. "You didn't mean to cheat, but you did. Do you love him?" The question hung in the air like a dark cloud. "I don't know," she confessed, feeling lost. "I don't know what I want anymore." Days passed in a haze of confusion and despair. Sarah was a ghost in her own life, moving through the motions with Jamie, who sensed the tension. Daniel, hurt and betrayed, withdrew into himself, making it clear that the foundation of their marriage had cracked. Sarah sought solace in Mark, but with each encounter, guilt gnawed at her. One night, Mark held her close, his lips brushing against her ear. "You know you can be with me, right? We can build something amazing together," he whispered. But the thought of leaving her family behind felt like a betrayal she couldn't bear. That night, as she lay in bed, she felt torn between two worlds, one that promised excitement and another that held her history, her love for Daniel and Jamie's innocence. After days of soul-searching, Sarah made a decision. She called Mark, her heart pounding. "I can't do this anymore," she said, her voice trembling. "I need to figure things out. I can't keep lying to myself or to Daniel." Mark's response was a mixture of hurt and understanding. "I get it. Just know that I'll be here if you change your mind," he said softly. That night, Sarah sat down with Daniel, ready to confront the truth. "I've made mistakes, Daniel. I've hurt you, and I'm so sorry," she began, pouring out her heart. They talked long into the night, navigating the pain and the love that still lingered between them. Weeks turned into months as Sarah and Daniel worked through the aftermath of betrayal. They sought counseling, learning to communicate and rebuild the trust that had been shattered. It wasn't easy. The wounds ran deep. Yet, Sarah began to see a glimmer of hope as they discovered new ways to connect. Through the process, Sarah found strength in vulnerability. She embraced her love for Daniel and the family they had built together. She even returned to her art, using it as an outlet to express her emotions and heal. Just when Sarah thought she had found her way back to a solid ground, life threw another curveball. One evening, while going through old emails, she stumbled upon a message from Mark, still lingering in her inbox. It was a simple note. "I miss you. We could have had something beautiful." The nostalgia hit her hard, stirring memories of their passionate moments. But this time, instead of longing, she felt a sense of closure. Sarah understood that while her time with Mark was a chapter in her life, it was not her story's ending. With renewed clarity, Sarah shared her feelings with Daniel. "I've realized that I love you and that our journey isn't over. I want to rebuild what we have," she said earnestly. Daniel smiled, the warmth returning to his eyes. "I want that too, Sarah. I believe we can create something beautiful together again." They began to reimagine their life, prioritizing their marriage and Jamie, planning trips and rekindling the small moments that once brought them joy. They enrolled in a dance class together, laughed over dinner at their favorite Italian restaurant, and rediscovered the beauty of simple companionship. Sarah poured her heart into the mural project, inviting Daniel to help. As they painted side by side, sharing laughter and stories, she felt the bond between them strengthen. The mural became a symbol of their journey, a blend of colors representing their struggles and triumphs. One sunny afternoon, while they worked on the mural, Jamie rushed over with an excited gleam in his eyes. "Mom, Dad, I have a surprise," he exclaimed, holding a crumpled piece of paper. "What is it, buddy?" Daniel asked, kneeling down to Jamie's level. Jamie unfolded the paper to reveal a flyer for a family talent show at school. "I want us to perform together. Can we do it?" he pleaded. Sarah and Daniel exchanged amused glances, their hearts swelling with warmth. "Of course, what should we do?" Sarah asked, imagining a playful dance routine. "I want us to sing," Jamie insisted, his enthusiasm infectious. As they prepared for the show, they found themselves laughing and bonding over rehearsals. Sarah felt lighter, the past no longer weighing her down. The family talent show became a joyful culmination of their healing journey, and when the night arrived, they performed with all their hearts, drawing cheers and applause from their friends and neighbors. Amidst their revitalized family life, Sarah received an unexpected message from Mark. He was back in town for an art exhibition and wanted to catch up. A part of her felt curious, another part was hesitant, but she had grown stronger, confident in her choices. After discussing it with Daniel, who encouraged her to face her past, Sarah agreed to meet Mark. "Just for closure," she reassured Daniel, who nodded, trusting her judgment. On the day of the exhibition, Sarah felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. As she entered the gallery, memories flooded back, but she was ready. When she saw Mark, he looked different, more grounded. "Sarah," he greeted, a warm smile on his face. "It's great to see you. How have you been?" "I've been good, busy with family and art," she replied, her voice steady. They talked about art, their passions, and life. Mark shared his journey since their last encounter, how he had pursued art education, moved to a bigger city, and even found love. Sarah felt a sense of relief wash over her. She realized she was truly over him. "I'm glad you're doing well," she said sincerely. "I've found happiness too." Mark nodded, his expression thoughtful. "I always knew you would. You're too talented not to thrive." As they parted, Sarah felt a weight lift. The encounter was amicable, allowing her to close that chapter without lingering regrets. She returned home with a sense of peace, eager to embrace her future with Daniel and Jamie. Months passed and the mural was finally completed. A vibrant depiction of their family, filled with symbols of love, resilience, and hope. They celebrated the unveiling with a small gathering of friends and family, sharing stories of the journey that led them there. As Sarah stood back and admired the mural, she felt a profound sense of gratitude. It represented not just their struggles, but also their growth. She realized that love isn't just about passion. It's about commitment, forgiveness, and choosing each other every day, each. Later that night, as they gathered around the dinner table, Jamie excitedly recounted stories from school. Daniel reached for Sarah's hand, intertwining their fingers. She looked at him, and in that moment, all the pain of the past melted away. Their love had been tested, but it had emerged stronger and more profound. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Daniel took on a new job that allowed him more time with family, and Sarah's design career flourished, with her artwork gaining recognition. Together, they navigated life's ups and downs, always leaning on each other for support. One evening, after tucking Jamie into bed, Sarah found Daniel on the porch, staring at the stars. She joined him, and they shared a comfortable silence, each lost in their thoughts. "Do you ever think about what could have been?" Daniel asked, breaking the silence. "Sometimes," Sarah admitted, But I don't dwell on it. I'm grateful for what we have now. Every moment has led us here together." Daniel smiled, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. "You're right. We've come a long way, haven't we?" "Yeah, we have, and I wouldn't trade it for anything," Sarah replied, leaning into him. As they sat together, the weight of the past felt like a distant memory. They had built a future filled with love, understanding, and respect. A future that was theirs to shape. One rainy afternoon, as the sky darkened, Sarah received a call from Jamie's school. He had fallen during recess and hurt his arm. Panic washed over her as she rushed to the school, Daniel right behind her. When they arrived, Jamie was in the nurse's office, a bandage wrapped around his small arm. He looked up and smiled, his eyes bright despite the pain. "Mom, Dad, I'm okay, just a little owie," he reassured them. Relief flooded over Sarah as she hugged him tightly. In that moment, she realized that life was unpredictable and full of challenges. But facing those challenges together was what truly mattered. Later that evening, as they cuddled on the couch, watching Jamie's favorite cartoon, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of joy. They had created a family filled with love and laughter, and despite the imperfections, they were whole. Years passed, and as Jamie grew, so did Sarah and Daniel's relationship. They faced new challenges, school projects, teenage angst, and the inevitable ups and downs of family life. But through it all, they remained each other's anchor, learning and growing together. One day, as Sarah was organizing old photographs, she stumbled upon a picture of her and Daniel from their early days, full of hope and dreams. She smiled, remembering their journey, the mistakes, the pain, and ultimately the love that had prevailed. That evening, she shared the photo with Daniel. "Look how far we've come," she said, her heart swelling with pride. Daniel grinned, pulling her close. "And we're just getting started. Here's to more adventures." As they toasted to their future, Sarah knew that life would continue to test them. But with every challenge, they would emerge stronger, hand in hand, ready to face whatever came their way. Years later, as Jamie prepared to graduate high school, Sarah reflected on their journey. They had weathered storms, celebrated milestones, and built a life filled with love. At Jamie's graduation, as he walked across the stage, Sarah and Daniel exchanged proud glances, knowing they had done their best to raise a kind, resilient son. They had built a legacy, one of love, forgiveness, and growth. As the ceremony concluded, they embraced Jamie, tears of joy streaming down their faces. "We're so proud of you," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. "Thanks, Mom and Dad. I couldn't have done it without you," Jamie replied, his eyes sparkling. As they walked hand in hand back to their car, Sarah felt a rush of gratitude for the life they had built. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, filled with love, understanding, and the unwavering bond that had brought them through the darkest of times. In that moment, Sarah realized that the true beauty of life lies not in the absence of challenges, but in the strength to rise together, embracing each new day with hope and love. And years later, as Sarah stood before a new canvas, she felt inspired. The struggles of the past had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. With each brushstroke, she painted not just the story of her family, but a message of resilience, a reminder that love can weather any storm. As she added the final touches, Daniel walked in, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "What are you working on?" he asked, peering over her shoulder. "Just a little something for our anniversary," she replied, smiling. "I can't wait to see it," he said, his eyes filled with admiration. Together, they marveled at the beauty of their life, ready to embrace whatever the future held, one day at a time, hand in hand. This story of infidelity and redemption encapsulates the complexity of love and relationships, illustrating how mistakes can lead to profound growth and understanding. If you liked the story, do like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to press the bell icon to get the latest updates.